All right, no intro music tonight. Normally I have my music going. I don't know what's going on with my audio. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I was trying to test everything pre-stream, so if you guys can just let me know in the chat if you guys can actually hear me and what I'm doing. Awesome. Okay, they can hear us. Guys, thank you for tuning in tonight. My name's Ryan. I'll be your pilot tonight. I am joined alongside the one, the only Michael Nania. How you doing tonight, Michael?
I'm doing great after yesterday, so thanks a lot for having me on.
Oh man, we got a lot to get into. We're going to talk about all the theatrics that happened during the game, after the game, the rumors of head coaching searches and firings of defensive coordinators, and all of that good stuff. But if you guys want to find more of Michael, his link to his YouTube channel is down below in the description. He is a part of Jets X Factor, just like our good buddies Robbie and Joe. Michael, tell everyone where they can find you.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Michael_Nania. Follow the JetX Twitter at Jets X Factor. Like you said, the YouTube link, we have that going as well. And of course, jetsxfactor.com. You can subscribe there. We have a ton of great analytics, film breakdowns, a really in-depth analysis coming every single day. So that's pretty much it. The Twitter's, the website, but we're always bringing it.
Awesome, awesome. I know I love all your guys' breakdowns. I've retweeted and shared some of your tweets that you've had. You have some great insight. So let's jump in. We'll start talking about yesterday's game. The Jets lose in amazing fashion to the Las Vegas Raiders with like 5 seconds left in the game. What were your big takeaways from yesterday's game?
Yeah, I mean, the way things were going, it wasn't really going to be the ideal sort of tank loss, kind of like the Chargers game. I thought was a perfect one. Dolphins was pretty good. This one wasn't necessarily as perfect. Becton struggled a little bit in pass protection. Was sort of a quiet game for Mims. So it wasn't going to be the type of game where you got that development you could really feel good about if you won. So it was going to sort of, at least from my perspective as a pro tank fan, I think most fans are on board with it. Some might not be right now, but from a tanking perspective, it wasn't going to be the best game to win. So to pull it out in the end was definitely satisfying at the end. My reaction was, I went insane. I'm glad I recorded it. I actually put it in the intro of our Cool Your Jets podcast. It was just, I was an animal. It was incredible. But so pulling it out was great, but there still were some positives. In the run game, Becton was really good, and really across the line, specifically him and McGovern were very good, which is important because I think those are your two most important pieces on that line going forward. And Mims, even though he wasn't targeted, I mean, he caught 2 of the 3 passes that came his way, had the 2-point conversion. Paul showed you some things, even though he had the missed tackle for the touchdown on Waller. That was a bad play. But other than that, was really good for the most part. And then the run game. And Josh Adams and Ty Johnson might be random running backs off the street you don't want to win games because of, but they are younger players who could be a part of the future. And both of those guys looked impressive. So there were definitely, and also Quinn Williams, John Franklin Myers, those 2 guys were fantastic. So there were definitely some positive takeaways. I'm happy at the loss, staying in the lead for Trevor, but there was still a lot of positive takeaways, which is what I think is the best part of what they're doing right now, because there are a lot of players developing, showing they can be a part of the future in this team right now. They're not just getting clobbered with zero hope for the future. You're seeing pieces develop that you can build around, and that's the best part of how they've been pulling this off.
Yeah, that's definitely the most exciting part because when you're in a season that's so lost like this one is, you're just hoping to see some growth from the young guys. And Joe Douglas's first draft class, aside from maybe Clark and I know everyone sort of has their feelings on the Morgan pick, but it seems like overall the draft class was a pretty good success. When you hit on your first and second round picks, that certainly goes a long way. I would have liked to have seen Mims get a lot more targets than he's been getting, but I guess when you have 14 completions by Darnold and 2 of them were from Mims, do they count the 2-point conversion as a catch?
It doesn't officially go in the stat line in terms of his yards and receptions, but I mean, it gets tracked, but it's not part of the yards. So technically 3 catches if you include those, if you include the 2-point. But what's great is when he does get targeted, like you said, the targets haven't been there, only 3 in this game, which you'd like to see more of. But when he gets targeted, yards per reception, 7th best at receiver. The percentage of his receptions that are first downs, I believe, is 17th best out of the 100 plus qualified receivers, so that's very good. So when he's been targeted, he's making plays. So that's what's really promising.
Yeah, and then you brought up the offensive line too. Mekhi Becton, while the pass game left a little bit more to be desired compared to how he normally performs, the run game was nothing short of elite. And getting what we got out of Ty Johnson and Josh Adams, that's why I think a lot of people are on board with not paying a running back a bunch of money. I know I was really pro Le'Veon Bell at the time because we weren't spending a lot of money. We had the young quarterback. I wanted to bring in a weapon. But when you have the good offensive line, you have the stud left tackle in Mekhi Becton, who I think could be the best left tackle in the game at some point. I think he's arguably a top 10 one right now. You could see just how the defenses plan around him. They're just not going at him the way they were to start the season. So watching that was really impressive. I kind of liked what I got out of Elfline, too. It seemed like the two of them on that left side worked well together, and maybe that's a combination of McGovern as well. I'd like to see more of Elfline going forward, especially with Alex Lewis being on the non-football list or or whatever for the next 3 weeks. So what did you think about Elfline and what we kind of got out of him, or the whole running back situation in terms of the offensive line? Is it a chicken or the egg kind of thing, or is this proving that it's all offensive line normally?
Yeah, I do think Elfline in the run game, you definitely saw the combo of him, not just him and Becton, but that whole up to McGovern. Those three guys really, I think, were the core of the run game. They had a lot more success going left than right in this game, and especially inside runs to the left. So Elfline in the run game is good. Protection, there's definitely some issues. I think he'll have 4 pressures, which for a guard is pretty bad, especially they only had 30 passing plays in this game. So that's a pretty high number. So pass protection, definitely some issues. But run game, there was some stuff to like. But McGovern is definitely, because he came in and had a really rough start to the season, especially in protection. But he's starting to come along. He is the number 2 center at PFF since week 9. So that's his last 4 games. So he's really starting to look more like the guy they thought they were getting, which is important because he's going to be around next season. They can't escape the contract without a ton of dead money. So he's going to be here. And you would like to see him play well and show that he's not, that he can fit here alongside these guys in the scheme, although it's going to be a different scheme, of course. But you would like to see him show that he can be a piece worth that contract and have as many pieces on this line as you can going into next season. I think George Fant has been decent this season, not necessarily great, but if you can have a decent right tackle, I think you can feel good about that going to next season and focus on your guard spots. So it's great to see McGovern playing better. George Fant, I think he's decent. And I believe his cap number is about $9 million next season, which seems like a lot, but I think it's only supposed to be around 10th among right tackles, which is, again, a little bit more than you would like to be paying him. But for a decent right tackle, we as Jets fans know how hard it is to find decent players on the offensive line. So when you can get that, I think you just stick with it. So it does seem like you have your tackle spots left and right filled with those 2 guys. Center with McGovern, that's progressively looking better. And you can focus on those 2 guard spots. And it would be nice to see Clark at some point this season. I'm not sure why he hasn't been out there because Josh Andrews is atrocious. So I don't know how he's not getting playing time over him. But if Van Roten is out for the season, which it seems like he is, Clark should be active at least, and which means he'll probably be the top backup at guard and get the first looks if someone else goes down. I would start him over Andrews, but I guess they're not doing that. So I'm feeling really good about the offensive line. And I do think in this game, because I just personally don't think Gore has run the ball well this season. The vision hasn't been as good as you would hope for a veteran running back. Obviously, he doesn't have the speed and just hasn't broke a lot of tackles either. I feel like the holes have been there this season. The cumulative run blocking grade of the offensive line has been good. Their adjusted line yards, which kind of adjust rushing yardage to assign responsibility to the O-line, that's been good. But the rushing yardage hasn't been there because I feel like Gore and P. Ryan haven't made the most of it. But Josh Adams and Ty Johnson in this game against the Raiders really took advantage of it, and you had a great rushing attack. So I like where the offensive line is headed.